And welcome to the latest episode of the Shaw Local Bears Insider Podcast. I am Michael Dwojak, Chicago Bears beat reporter, here with the Northwest Herald's Joe Aguilar, as we are talking to you on Monday morning after a crazy win, against the Las Vegas Raiders. Like how we all drew it up, how we all expected it to go down. A crazy game, but a win nonetheless. It wasn't pretty by any means, and we will break it all down. We'll talk about the good, the bad, the dirty. A lot of stuff to talk about after this game. But Joe, the Bears find they find a way to win a game. This is a game that they lost plenty of times last year. It was like the main focus of my story here from Vegas yesterday. But the Bears wanted to beat that moniker that this is the same old Bears. And at least for a day, it seems like they did that.
Absolutely. I mean, and we've heard the cliche, winning is contagious, losing is contagious, and they had to get past that. And we talked the other day on the podcast about maybe you got to win one ugly. And if that's the case, so be it. And that was the case because that first half, boy, the offense really from the first snap until most of the remaining of the half looked ugly. Penalties. Caleb didn't look comfortable. It's like, oh boy, they might have to grind one through here, grind one out. And like you said, Michael, last year we saw Green Bay, certainly the game in Washington, where you had opportunities to somehow win an ugly one, and you had it, and you blew it. And especially for a young franchise with a new head coach, not a young franchise, they have 800 career victories now as a franchise, a young team with a new head coach. Really important, especially with the bye week coming up here, where we talked about this too the other day. You don't want to be sitting on a bad loss for 2 weeks, and they don't have to, thanks to Josh Blackwell's great block to preserve the victory in the final minute.
Listen, it's definitely a program builder, right? And that's funny that it's funny to say that. I feel like you say program builder obviously for college, for high school, and that sort of stuff, like your identity. But I feel like we kind of forget that also applies in the NFL, right? Like this is Ben Johnson, like bringing in his identity, his coaching staff, the culture he wants in this, and that doesn't just happen. That doesn't just happen by working out in training camp and then, you start the game and it's all there and it's all perfect, right? Like that, it doesn't take that. It takes time. It takes games like this, right? Like it takes a big performance like you saw against the Cowboys on week 3. And then yesterday you gutted out a win. And that's a win. As you saw the videos after the game, the players talking about Ben Johnson talking about it. It's just, these are the types of games you win if you want to have a winning culture and a winning program, right? So it's really important. And we'll get into all of it. It wasn't perfect by any means. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to dissect here 4 weeks into the season. But it's really big for them to pick up a win like this. If you're joining us on YouTube, thanks so much for joining us on the live stream. Make sure you get your comments in there. We appreciate you guys joining us on this Monday morning. Make sure you get all your thoughts and comments in there. Rick joining us this morning. Michael, are you staying in Vegas? I am leaving Vegas after this morning. I like Vegas, but I'm kind of a 2-night Vegas kind of guy. I'm not. I don't need to spend more time in here. I did a couple rounds at the blackjack table. It didn't go well, and I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm ready to go. But just a quick, like I said, thanks for joining us on the YouTube stream. Give us a like. That's the best way to support us. And if you're listening on the podcast, you're like, I want to be part of the conversation. Make sure you check out when we post it. We like to do this every Friday morning and Monday morning. But Joe, every week we like to do winners and losers. We like to break down 3 winners and losers each. 3 winners, 3 losers. Since the Bears won 25-24, let's start with the winners. Let's start with the positive here. Joe, who's your first winner from Sunday's win?
Well, at least we have options, right? At least we have good options to choose from here. We can go a lot of different directions. I'll just start with Kevin Byard, the third. What a great game for him, tone setter. And man, where's the fountain of youth? I want some. You don't need it yet, Michael. You're still young. But I'll take what Kevin Byard is drinking because he has found it. 10-year veteran. He had 1 interception in 17 games last season, played in every game. Which is important, especially if you're a Bears player, because a lot of guys can't seem to play every week. but he did. But and he even said, I think at the end of last year, Michael, and when you talked to him, I know though with the media, he didn't have as good a year as he wanted. The team didn't, but he knew he had to play better, and he has come out with a vengeance these first 4 games here. That 3 interceptions now, the 2 yesterday, set the tone. 2 great pickups. We said, I thought the Bears could find a way to get some turnovers on defense. I thought Montez Sweat would have a big game. He had another sleeper. I don't know where he was yesterday. He didn't do anything, but thank God for Kevin Byard for the Bears, because he was really impressive at a tackle for loss. I know he missed the tackle on Ashton Genty on the 25 in the first half there. Genty had that 64-yard TD run. Byard could have stopped and maybe hold him to a field goal there. But that aside, 2 interceptions, the tackle for loss, had a big stop too on another play where he stopped the runner. I don't know if it was Genty or someone else, shy of the first down marker. So props to Kevin Byard, playing like a veteran and showing. I think even he said, he tweeted out yesterday that he's still getting it done in year 10 in the National Football League.
It's a big performance from one of your captains. I know maybe
Yep.
he's not like one of those captains, but he is a captain on that defense. He's a big leader. He's a big vocal guy. And listen, he said it came down to watching the tape. Like they studied Geno Smith, they looked at his tendencies, and the whole defense just saw something. And every time Byard went, against the scout team and worked out a little bit, he got interceptions during practice this week because of the film that he watched. So he was feeling confident. And Tyreek Stevenson, I mean, both of Byard's interceptions was, you could tell he studied. He was like locked in on Geno Smith. He knew exactly where that ball was going to go. And that kind of goes back into not only player preparation, but coach preparation, right? Like the coaches are putting these guys in positions to win. And that's really refreshing. That Tyreek Stevenson interception, obviously he knew where the ball was going, but that was also just a crazy play. Like that diving catch was just that's the last 2 weeks you've seen the Tyreek Stevenson that we've kind of expected to see this year. So that was a really big performance. But yeah, for Kevin Byard especially, you need this to start the year, right? Like especially, for Kevin, I mean, he's going into a contract year, right? So he wants to put together a good performance and shows that he can still play at this level. But yeah, I agree. Just for what Kevin was able to do, for what Tyreek Stevenson were able to do, that secondary just abused Geno Smith. That kind of led to the Raiders to kind of turn to the run, which we'll get to later about that run defense. Maybe it wasn't, it's one of those good things lead to a bad thing sort of thing. But I agree, that secondary looked like what we expected it to look like at the beginning of the season.
And one more note on that. I mean, and again, like you just said, we'll get to the D line in a little bit here, but they're doing this. The secondary, that's 2 good games in a row now, with no help basically from the front 7. I mean, They're not getting any pressure at all. So for the defense, because a lot of times it's coverage sacks, right? Or you're getting pressure, I should say. You're getting good pressure, and that leads to an interception. Well, this hasn't been the case now. That's 6 interceptions, right? 3 each in the last 2 games here. So that's impressive considering the lack of production you're getting from the pass rush.
Yeah, especially, for how much we talked about all offseason about the pass rush leading to secondary for, like, that's the whole Dennis Allen defense, right? Like the pass rush has to work in order for the secondary to work. And
yeah,
so far, I mean, the secondary has shown that it's doing its job. It's playing good man-to-man coverage. Has it got listen, did it get blown up against Detroit? Yes. That wasn't good. Did it let up some plays against the Vikings? Yes. But I think you're starting to see the secondary come into its own. And I think you're kind of seeing Dennis Allen making some adjustments. He hasn't revamped his defense by any means, but I think he's adjusting to seeing that maybe we're not going to see the pressure that he wants to have there. And he's, mixing some things up, sending the safeties back a little bit, letting them kind of stay, as opposed to maybe what he would want to do, maybe more in kind of a zone thing, especially for Brisker and for Byard. So I agree. And that kind of leads to my first winner. Just the preparation to win this game. That's the winner for me, whether it's coaching, whether it's the players. That Josh Blackwell blocked field goal toward the end of the game, that happened because Scott Daly noticed a tendency from the Raiders field goal unit. And they worked on it all week. Special teams coordinator Richard Hightower talked about it this week. They came close. Josh Blackwell said after the game that he came close on the first couple of tries in the field goal. And then he finally was able to break through on that third one. But whether it's that, whether it's like, whether it's Kevin Byard knowing where the ball is going to be going because it's Geno Smith, and the preparation, you can just tell is so much better. Like you can, that's not to say that last year's team didn't prepare. That's not to say that last year's coaching staff wasn't getting these guys, ready and wasn't coaching them up. But I think you're seeing a difference, right? Like you're seeing a difference of coaches putting their players in positions to win, right? Like you're seeing that in the coaching. Like you're seeing, Ben Johnson said he didn't adjust his offense too much in the second half based on what he saw. Like he said after the game, he'll need to look at the tape and see if he really changed things up. But you did see a little bit of a momentum shift in that fourth quarter with the offense, the way the play calling, like the shorter runs and the shorter passes. And, Caleb was able to kind of, create some plays there with his legs a couple times. But my biggest winner at this point is the coaching. We weren't sure what we were going to get. Obviously, first-time coach, but you had an experienced coaching staff, and this coaching staff is putting these guys in positions to win every single week at this point.
Yeah, good call there. I'll say this. I mean, other than the Detroit game, because everyone got an F on that one. Everyone, from Ryan Poles to the coaches to the players, everybody. But really, since the get-go here, we've seen what Ben Johnson is all about. And that goes back to the preseason, and it's been really good. I do have faith in this coaching staff. I do think this program, this organization is on the right path with this guy in charge.
Yeah.
The GM, that's another story. I'm not giving him much credit for any of this, but I'll give him credit for getting the coach right. And everyone wanted the coach. Then you thought, well, maybe he's going to find out how tough it is being a head coach instead of a coordinator. But he's brought the right people in, not only Dennis Allen, but some of the other assistants. We're seeing that. And that I do have faith in and confidence and belief that they will continue to ascend.
All right, Joe, who's your second winner from Sunday's win?
Well, Michael, you know how much I love the kicker. I've been a Cairo Santos fan.
You've been Cairo Santos' biggest fan from the beginning of the season. Every week you're just singing his praises. I can't get you to stop on the podcast.
Well, I will give him his prop. But you know what? Again, early in the year, we all saw it. They bring in Jake Moody. It's not just to say, hey, Jake, come to Soldier Field and be on our practice squad. They were seeing what we were seeing, and they needed to see more. So I'm not saying it lit a fire under his butt, but Cairo Santos, man, was huge yesterday because some of those possessions were god awful ugly in the first half of the Bears. And who bailed them out? Oh my goodness, the kicker, Cairo Santos, 4 for 4 yesterday. 2 in the second half. I think the 2 in the second half were both. We had 3 in the first half, but the last 2 he hit were 50+ yards. I know he's not going to hit a 65-yarder like some of these guys in the league do, but if you can consistently, make field goals from 50, 55, 58 yards in, okay. And again, I know he's been one of the most consistent kickers in the franchise. I didn't think he was good last year. Got off to a bad start this year, but he really bailed them out yesterday because you think about some of those possessions, especially the one, I think it was when they had 6 points and it was the third field goal he kicked where it was the bad snap. That looked so ugly. Maybe the Komet drop and like, oh my gosh, they're almost out of field goal range here. One of those. And he comes in and he nails a long one. So props to him, 4 for 4. And even the kickoff at the end of the game after they scored to go ahead, that was actually Tory Taylor. Maybe I missed it. I don't know if he'd been doing that recently. Maybe you can answer that for me, Michael. But
no, Cairo, it seemed like he kind of tweaked something, and they had to put Tory in there. Ben said that Cairo was fine after the game, but it seemed like he tweaked something at the moment, so they had to throw in Tory in there. Because
I had said Tory Taylor, the guy can kick it from here to the moon. I mean, why can't he kick off and boom it 8 rows back? I didn't like that where it looked like he was purposely kicking it to stay in bounds, and then they almost broke one there, and it set him up in good field position. And let's face it, I mean, they without the Blackwell block, which I don't think any of us saw coming, a block field goal there, let alone from Blackwell. The Raiders break our hearts again. Another NFL team breaks the hearts of the Bears. So, but I don't know. Boom it, and if they boom it out of the end zone, where do they get the ball? To 30?
Yeah.
30?
I think it's 35 now. I think
35 now. 35. Better that because they started. Where did they start that last drive, the Raiders? Was it like at the 40, 42, something like that? I don't have it in front of me.
It was the 42.
42. So I think you rather than just boom it or boom it into the end zone and maybe force the guy to return it. But that looked like, I don't know, show off that big thunder leg, kid. Let's go. Torrey
Yeah.
Taylor, that is.
Yeah. And obviously it's a different thing, obviously kickoffs and punting are, two different things, but
I know, but
you
big
are kind of
leg, big
surprised that you
leg.
can't do that. Yeah. You are kind of surprised by that. And we'll see what the situation with Cairo is. He'll have 2 weeks to get back, but, with the context of obviously it's perfect conditions, you're inside, you're kicking
Yep,
indoors, there's no wind. Like, obviously, kickers are going to do well from
sure.
that situation. But I agree, Cairo bailed them out a lot of time. We'll get into the offense's ineptitude with what the defense was able to give them. But Cairo really came through for them, 4 for 4. It was good to see them kind of get back there. My second winner is, and obviously, there's these aren't like in certain positions, but my second winner is the quarterback and the confidence that Ben Johnson has in his quarterback. Where after the game, Ben told us and Caleb told us, like heading into that final drive, like Ben looked at Caleb and said, like essentially, like I don't have it off the top of my head, but for lack of better phrasing, like you've got this. Like this is what you were
Yes.
made for. Like this is where you shine. And that just kind of gave Caleb calmness before going into a huge drive. It's the Bears are trailing at that point. They're losing 24-19. They need to go down the field. I tweeted out, score now is like Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, like the table set for you. And I got replies where people were like, well, I don't know how this is going to happen. What have you been looking at? But I think you saw the difference between what makes Caleb Williams a winner, right? And you saw this a lot last year where
Yes.
he led them on some what should have been game-winning drives last year that ended up becoming heartbreaking losses when that wasn't because of his fault. And yes, we can get into the whole what is he doing for the first 3 quarters? Why isn't it working for the first 3 quarters where he has to be in these positions, obviously, to win at the end of the game? And that's a totally valid argument. But I do think that Caleb has shown you that he just comes through in big moments. Like he can lead a team down the field to score, and he can make big plays, whether it's scrambling, whether it's finding the open receiver, whether it's just moving the ball down the field. He can handle the pressure, and he has continuously showed you that he can do that in a lot of different ways. He did it last year against the Commanders. He did it against Green Bay. He did it against Minnesota. He was doing it against Detroit. Like all those moments were moments where he could have, the story would be really different last year if they win those games, because it's like Caleb Williams leads them to a victory, right? Instead, it's a heartbreaking loss to all those teams. So, yeah, I think it's just the biggest winner, or for me, from this whole thing is Caleb Williams shows that he can win, and he had like the Ben Caleb relationship. I don't think there was any doubt about how good it was and how strong it was heading into this game. But I left leaving that game being like Ben is all in on Caleb, and Caleb is all in on Ben, and these two, if they can kind of continue to grow the way they've had through 4 weeks of the season, they can really do something special, especially toward the end of the year.
Yeah, no, good call there. I was gonna, if you didn't say Caleb, I was going to, because you look at the numbers. What he ended up throwing for 216 or 212. That's respectable, certainly. But the first half, it didn't look right. I mean, he was hurried, fumble, the batted down passes. I know they were going against Max Crosby, but still, Max Crosby looked like one of the, you looked like one of the all time, best D ends in the history of the National Football League. He's good, but he hasn't achieved that status yet. But
right.
Anyway, no, look, fourth quarter comeback wins are a thing. I don't know if it's an official stat, but you have that on your resume. And you're right, Michael, you nailed it. He should have had a couple last year, and this team collapsed. Blame Matty Eberflus, whoever, the failed Mary, whatever. He should have had a couple of those fourth quarter comeback wins on his resume last year. He didn't. So this is important because it does become like, it can become like an albatross. Look, it became that way with Justin Fields, but it became like he can't win in the fourth quarter. Yeah, but did you see the drop pass by Equanimeous St. Brown? Did you see that one? What about this play that the guy just, ran out of bounds or whatever, or wasn't his fault, but it became a thing. Justin Fields can't win in the fourth quarter. So it does become a talking point, and players hear the noise. They try to block it out, but they hear it. But this is what Caleb does. And I think I heard that Ben Johnson told before that last touchdown drive, you're made for moments like this. And he is. We saw it in college, but you need to start getting those on your resume in the National Football League. And that was a good start because, again, he's had better games. He's not going to be, offensive player of the week in the NFC again this week. But when it mattered, he came through. He engineered that drive. He was poised. And, those scrambles he had for like 6 yards to one, 12 on the other to keep those drives going. Hey, man, Patrick Mahomes does that. Lamar Jackson does that. Josh Allen does that. You don't always have to show off the great arm and the smart. Just take off, be an athlete, and pick the right time and spots to do it. And he did it. So kudos to Caleb.
It goes back to what we talked about last week, right? Like you need to learn how to win. And that obviously didn't happen a lot last year. And, call for what it is. Like, well, what we're getting to the negatives. I feel like I keep teasing that, but you need to win. You need to win these types of games. You need to learn how to win these types of games. Like you need to know how to make a stop. You need to know how to go on a game-winning drive toward the end of the game. What works, what doesn't, right? Like you need to go through those experiences, no matter what you're doing in life, right? Like you can't just know how to do something without ever doing it, right? Like so, I think that was a big thing, and I agree. You just have to be really encouraged by what you're seeing from Caleb right now. Is it perfect? No, it's not. Like there's still a lot of things to be desired. Obviously, it wasn't perfect circumstances for him yesterday, but you do have to really be encouraged about what you're seeing from the coach and the quarterback 4 weeks into the season. All right, Joe, final winner for you before we start moving on to the negative.
Well, I guess I'll just go with Josh Blackwell and may kind of lump it all with the special teams because that won the game for you. That's simple. But I love what he said. You've already talked about it. But Scott Daly, the Bears long snapper, telling him their center, their long snapper, the Raiders, he moves the ball right before he snaps it. And Josh said he almost had a couple early in that game. And man, and when he finally got the one, it was at the perfect time. But that was, well, I haven't seen the picture yet. There's got to be a picture of him. That leap, I mean, that was Air Jordan-esque. That was quite the leap to get a finger or 2 fingers, whatever it was, on that football. That was a great play by Josh Blackwell, undrafted kid on a second organization. He's a corner. He's not. He can't even play. He can't even beat out guys, other undrafted guys, to be a starting corner or get reps at corner rarely. But he made a big play and he got a game ball. Good for that kid. That's a moment he'll have for the rest of his life, and he'll have that football somewhere proudly displayed on a shelf like a Butkus jersey or something in his man cave someday. But good for Josh Blackwell. So how can we not pick him for at least one of the positives from this football game yesterday?
Yeah, and especially for him, just obviously, the coaching staff love Blackwell. Like he's just a great special teamer. He gives it all. He dealt with some injuries during training camp, so he wasn't out there. Nick McLeod kind of beats him out for their backup cornerback nickel spot, and Nick's played fairly well in place of Kyler Gordon for the most part. But yeah, it's just great for him. It's great. Those moments are really cool for guys where it's kind of like, they put in a lot of work. How often are we talking about Josh Blackwell? I don't think we've said his name at all throughout training camp. Maybe we said who could potentially fill in for, the injuries that they have at that position and that sort of stuff, but we haven't really talked about him. So those are really cool moments just to kind of have that unexpected happen. Someone has to step up, like Ben Johnson said after the game, and, help you win a game like that. And that's exactly what Josh did. And I'll go for my last winner. I'll go with just the entire defense, forcing 4 turnovers for a second straight game. I haven't been able to go through the records book and see the last time they've done that, but they haven't done that in a while. I didn't do it last year to have back-to-back 4 turnover games. You can get into the whole, what is Pete Carroll going for it on 4th and 1 deep in his territory, and then Andrew Billings back-to-back plays just completely blows up the offensive line to force that, and then Noah Sewell gets to force the fumble, and then Tyreek Stevenson recovers it. But kudos to the defense. Obviously it wasn't perfect. We'll get to the run defense and all that sort of stuff. But to force 4 turnovers, they gave their offense plenty of opportunities to score in the first half, and Well, that's a good transition kind of toward the negatives. Joe, I'll start off with the negatives. My first negative is for how great Caleb was and how great obviously the game-winning drive was. Like, you come away, you don't take advantage of opportunities after great field position. Kevin Byard gets the first interception, gets the ball to the Las Vegas 24. You go a total of -4 yards on 4 plays, and you have to kick a field goal. The fumble, you get the ball at the Las Vegas 20. You use 6 plays, you go 7 yards, and it's intercepted because Max Crosby is insane, bats the ball and intercepts it. That was just an insane play. The second Kevin Byard interception, you get the ball at the 24 of the Raiders again. You use 8 plays to gain a total of 9 yards, and then you lose a yard on the whole thing, and then you just go for a field goal. And then Tyreek Stevenson, the interception in the third quarter, you finally get a touchdown on that. You're able to go on a drive. But, man, Joe, you had plenty of opportunities to make this a blowout game. Your defense kept giving it to you, and you just didn't look good at all as an offense. Like, the Max Crosby, he's insane. When Ben Johnson was talking about him earlier last week and giving him his flowers, I was kind of like, all right, like, obviously you're going to talk him up. Like, you don't want to give him any bulletin board material. But, and I've obviously seen Max Crosby play throughout the years, but man, what he was able to do, he dominated that game. He killed drives. He was everywhere. He knew where the ball was going to be. He was bull rushing all these different guys, and that affected the Bears from doing anything. And you need more than, especially on those first 3 turnovers, you need more than 6 points. You need to get into the end zone. You're taking over at the 20-yard line, and you have a penalty, or you have this, or you missed an opportunity there. And Joe, that is still, for how great the last minute drive was, and finding a way to win the game, all that sort of stuff. I understand that, but your defense gave you a lot of opportunities to make this a blowout, and the Bears offense just didn't take advantage of that at all.
No, that's why I thought while that was happening, I thought, well, for sure, this is what everyone's going to be talking about tomorrow. How the Bears lost this game because of the failed opportunities when they had the ball deep in Raiders territory on all those possessions you mentioned. It was just really ugly. And most of the games in the NFL are basically a 1 possession game,
Sure.
So, the Komet drop, if he catches that, it was only right in his hands. He maybe gets into the end zone. They at least come away with 3 there, but there was so much shooting themselves in the foot yesterday. 8 penalties yesterday for 60 yards. This reeked of past bad Bears teams. And then, so for them to overcome all of that and the great game by Max Crosby was wonderful, because sometimes you got to sink a 30-footer to make par. And you're like, wow, sure. I can't believe it. Now I'm confident going to the next hole because I just saved par with a 30-footer. Well, sometimes you got to win a game like this to go into your next game, whether you have a bye week or not, to say, man, we're coming off a win and I feel good. And let's build off that. But wow, that offense and just the clumsiness and discombobulated look was putrid. So for us to be smiling as Bears fans today, for the Bears to be smiling on that plane ride home, wow.
It just didn't look good. I mean, no matter how you want to put it, even when Max Crosby wasn't involved on the play, you barely get the running game going. You are not, the passes aren't falling. Some of the play calling at the beginning was kind of like, is this working? Is this not? It was just ugly. It was bad. And it kind of reeked of what happened last year, where the offense just doesn't do anything for 3 quarters, right? And then you finally break through in the fourth quarter and you finally figure it out. But if you're Ben Johnson and you're that coaching staff, you're looking at what's happening in those first 3 quarters, because in the first few games they score on their opening drive, they kind of make it look good, like they come out with a good script. But yesterday, you need to take advantage of those opportunities, and I know they got the field goals. That's good, like we talked about Cairo Santos, but you need to score touchdowns in those moments. You take over at your own 20. That's just like you break a game open situation. You need to learn how to do that. All right, Joe, what's your first loser?
Well, it's got to be the run game again. Four
Yeah.
games, four stinky games from the run game, and we thought they shored up the interior of their line. Tooney, again, I don't grade offensive linemen for a living, but I guess Tooney's been really good, and I've been hearing his name. That's good, but I don't know. Look, this offense is not going to be able to maximize its potential even if Caleb continues to learn and Ben Johnson continues to show he knows what he's doing and bringing this young quarterback along until they get the run game going. Now, to their credit, they got some big runs late when they needed him. The Swift run, even though it was 2 yards out to put him ahead, I give him credit there. He did have some good runs. You look at his overall numbers again; they weren't good. They rushed for 69 yards. This has to be solved soon because wait until they get a running game going. Now you're going to see the quarterback really elevate his game. And I'm not saying it's going to be Patrick Mahomes in 2 weeks after they get the run game figured out, but now we're going to see that. But until then, they cannot be an efficient offense until they get this figured out. I don't know who's out there. I keep seeing other teams bringing guys, veteran guys off, claiming guys off waivers, and they're making an impact. I don't know what they're going to do, Michael. Maybe they do nothing in the next 2 weeks, but is there anyone they can bring in? Because they've got to get more as either a compliment to Swift or do something with that interior, that offensive line in general to get a better running game going where you can break off a long run. We even had a long run from anybody. It's mainly been Swift who's been back there, of course. But, man, it's been really bad. I mean, really bad these first 4 weeks.
Yeah, I had in my takeaways just, the Bears talked about, watching the run game as a team last week. And they talked about how, it's small things, like we're really close to figuring it out. And then I sat there after Sunday's game. I was like, how close are you? Like that it doesn't, like, what are you watching that maybe that I'm not seeing? But after one quarter, the Bears totaled -1 rushing yards. After 2 quarters, it was 3. After 3 quarters, it was 24 rushing yards. They finished the game with, like you mentioned, Joe, 69 rushing yards. So, obviously they were able to get it going in the fourth quarter. But you need to get this. I agree with you. If any competent, any dynamic offense has a good running attack where the defense can't just focus on the passing attack, right? Like they need to focus in on the run or they're going to get burned. Like that's basic football. Like that's what they're doing in high school. Like obviously, right? Like you need to know, you need to get this running attack going. And I don't know whether it's DeAndre Swift, whether it's the blocking. I don't see a lot that. There are a lot of times where I'm just seeing that, DeAndre Swift gets the ball and there's someone already there waiting for him. And I need to look at the next gen stats and see what the numbers are about, like how often, how long it takes for someone to get to, Swift in the backfield. And does he really have an opportunity to do anything? But it's not working at all as a run attack. Caleb's able to scramble for a few yards. He's got 13. Monangai got 4 for 18. You got to figure out, and Sports Chicago Style says Roschon Johnson gets no love at the RB position. He only gets special team snaps. What happens when Homer returns? I mean, at this point, I think Roschon Johnson's just a special team guy for you, right? Like you would think that you would put him in at least to see what he can do for you, at least give you a spark, right? Like you would just want to see what he can pick up a 2 or 3 yards on third or second down. And it's very clear that that's not the situation. So maybe Travis Homer is the solution when he kind of comes back there. We'll see. We'll likely get an update on him since 4 weeks are through the year and he was placed on that IR to start the year. We should maybe get an update on Austin Booker and Travis Homer either this week, but probably next week when they kind of get back into things. But this running attack needs to get going because you're not going to reach your full offense unless you're able to do that. And that just isn't the case at all. So, Joe, I agree. You just need to get that running back thing going or this isn't going to work.
Yep.
All right, Joe, my second loser is not – I don't want to put it on one guy. I don't think – I'll do what you like. I'll put it on Ryan Poles. The fact that you are so Darnell Wright gets hurt. He has an elbow injury. He can't play. Ozzie Trapillo is listed as your backup right tackle. but then Theo Benedict gets the start after he played for right. Okay, fine. But then if things are not working, you can't stop Max Crosby. You can't figure things out. So then you move Theo Benedict from the right side to the left side, and then you put Ozzy Trapillo in there at the right tackle spot. And I still need to look at the tape. I haven't gotten a chance to look at the tape and see, how he held his own. From what I've seen and from what I've read, it sounds like Trapillo did a pretty good job actually handling his own against Max Crosby in his first NFL game. Like, it seems like he actually did a pretty good job. But man, this isn't a good situation to be in. Like, you prioritize special players, like you drafted a wide receiver and a tight end with your first 2 draft picks in the draft this year. And that's not to say that Colston Loveland's a very talented player and, Luther Burden III are really talented players, but it's become very clear that you don't have a left tackle on this team that you are confident in at this point. I assume that the competition is wide open. Ben said that he's liked a lot about what he's seen from Ozzy. He keeps getting better every single week, and he just saw an opportunity to put him in and switch him out. But Joe, it's, I know teams go through this all the time and they go through offensive line changes and they mix guys up, but it just feels like a bad negative situation that they're in the situation where you don't really know who your left tackle is. You're not really putting your second round pick in the spot to succeed in his first start or his first game action. Like, it just all feels like it's not good. And I don't feel like the coaching staff has been put in a position at least where they can excel at those 2 points.
Well, I don't disagree with anything you're saying there. And me, I've been on this whole, what are we doing with Ozzy Trapillo? What's the plan here? Did they mess this one up too? And by the way, this whole draft class, and I like Burden, I like Loveland, and Loveland didn't play yesterday because of the hip, but they're getting basically nothing out of this 2025 draft class right now. And that irks me. So again, that they're 2-2 with getting nothing out of this group basically, is really an indictment on the GM who's been extended for 5 years. But that offensive line, the tackles, it's almost like we thought we could do this. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, we better adjust now. You've had a whole off season to get this right. Now they're done all right. Hopefully, I'm assuming he'll be back in 2 weeks when they play Washington on Monday night. So then you move him, or are they thinking about, maybe we move him? Maybe we are going to move him to left tackle. I don't know what's going on, but they need to figure it out. And it's tough to do it in season. And you're protecting your quarterback, who that's the most important football player on this team. And you're still trying to figure out your tackle positions. This is not good. It's just not a good look, especially for the GM.
Yeah, Sports Chicago style asked so long, Braxton Jones. I don't know. I quite honestly don't know. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, I'll need to look at the tape and see it. But it became very clear that things kind of turned around when they made the switch offensively. I don't know, how much you want to put that, that Braxton Jones was causing you a lot of issues. I mean, last week he graded great against the Dallas Cowboys, right? Like, obviously, how much are you going to blame him for this? But it's very clear that you don't have a solution yet. And the fact that you're still like wondering about Darnell Wright and like, do you put him at left tackle? Like, that shouldn't be like, you drafted him in the top 10 a couple years ago to be your right tackle. Like, he is supposed to be your right tackle of the future. And he played fine for the first few years, like respectable, like at a good level. But like you talked about, Joe, in the past, but you needed to draft a left tackle if you were so worried about this. Like, these are your top 2 important positions, like the left tackle, obviously the blind side, but the right tackle, especially in today's NFL, for how much you can move edge rushers, whatever, that right tackle spot is also really important to your quarterback. So I agree. I think it's not a good situation to be in. We'll hear from Ben Johnson. I'm sure they're going to work through some stuff when they practice on Tuesday and Wednesday. And I assume the competition is back open at this point, but it's not a good position to be in at this point. You just want everything to be as good as possible for Caleb to succeed and to continue to grow. And were there some mistakes on Caleb in the first 3 quarters? Yes. Like, obviously some plays were making, some throws were missed, some plays were dropped, but man, he was getting rushed all the time and he barely had an opportunity to do something. And that's just that's just you're not able to stop or even chip or protect Caleb at all.
No, it's a wreck, Michael. I mean, they should, when you consider every football team from high school to college to pro, pee wee, they talk about controlling the line of scrimmage. That's the most important thing, controlling the line of scrimmage. The Bears' lines of scrimmage, offensive, haven't controlled squat this year, and yet they're 2-2. So that's the positive.
All right, Joe, what's your next negative?
Well,
or loser?
Like I hate to pick on the local kid, St. Viator's very own, but boy, Cole Kmet. Wow, the drop. That's a tough day. The drop. I mean, you want to make your quarterback look good. Well, that'll pad his stats right there. I mean, that's a great throw by Caleb, right in the hands. I don't know if he peaked. That's again, maybe he gets into the end zone there if he catches the dang ball. And then the 2 false starts. I mean, and this goes back to last year too. Wasn't one game where he had, I think, offensive pass interference penalties in the same game? Like I don't know what you're doing. And I like Cole Kmet. I do. I think he's a good weapon. He's a great athlete, as we know. But man, he's got to be better. And Colston Loveland. Michael, is the word that he will be? Was that a precautionary thing with the hip? You fully expect him? I know you're not the team doctor or anything, or Colston Loveland himself, but do you think he will be ready in 2 weeks against Washington? Because if he is, he's got to play, he's got to start, and we got to start seeing this kid unleashed now.
It seemed like he was limited on Friday, and then he was listed as questionable. This just kind of feels like a situation where why? Let's just let it heal. We'll miss him for one game. You get 2 weeks to recover. You get 3 weeks to recover from the hip injury, and then you have a big game against the Commanders on Monday Night Football in Week 6. Right? It just feels like one of those situations where you're kind of like, all right, we trust Cole. I think he's he's a dependable tight end.
Yep.
It just feels like one of those situations. So I would.
Okay.
For my uninformed, guess, I would guess that Colston would probably play. Could there be a setback in the next week and a half? Sure. Anything can happen. But
right.
I would assume that Colston will use the time to get, healed. Those hip injuries, you don't want those to, you don't want any injury to, to be part of to lag on or anything like that. But for Colston to be an effective target like he can be, you need that hip to be good. So I can see them maybe being precautionary, being like, we'll be fine for this one game. He'll have 3 weeks to heal himself and he'll get back in there. So and you saw in that game against Dallas, they were targeting Colston before he got injured. They were making it a priority to get him in there. So I would assume so. But yeah, I agree. It's those 2 false start penalties in critical situations. One of them was coming out. One of them was on third down, coming out of a timeout. Let me give credit. That was essentially a home game for the Bears. The fans, the Chicago people traveled. It was loud in there. It was confusing sometimes to know who did what, because if you weren't watching, because you were like, wait, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because both crowds were equally as loud. So
right.
you can't have those penalties happen, and it's just. It was a tough day for Cole, obviously. He's had good, he has had bad, but those are just one of those situations where it just wasn't a good day in the office for him. It also wasn't a good day in the office for another priority that it doesn't seem like has worked for Ryan Poles, and that's the defensive line in both aspects of the line. The Bears ended the game with 1 quarterback hit, and that's from Jaquan Brisker, and no sacks.
I mean,
and all due respect to Geno Smith, all that offensive line for the Raiders, I think is fine. That's not one of your best offensive lines, right?
No.
But you're creating no pressure on the quarterback, and it's impressive that the secondary is able to do what's been able to do up to this point. So you're not creating much of a pass rush there. Then, heading into this game for me screamed, this is going to be Ashton Genty's breakout game, and that's exactly what happened. 138 rushing yards, 64-yard touchdown run for a touchdown. He caught a touchdown too. Mostert added 62 yards. Smith added 31 yards. So it was a situation where, especially for how good the defense was, at the end of the game when the Raiders took over at their own 42, you were like, there's no doubt in my mind that they're going to move the ball down the field. Like they've been just doing this effectively, right? Like there was no for all those turnovers at the beginning of the game, the Raiders were moving the ball really well in the third and fourth quarter against the Bears. Like they were doing a really good job. So both is just bad for this defensive line. They don't have a pass rush. They don't have a run defense. I don't know what you change at this point. You can only do so much, right? Like you know, Shamar Turner got in the game. He got a couple tackles. He had a tackle for a loss. He's starting to maybe get some momentum, but you would want him to kind of make more of an impact after missing all of training camp. But listen, like your top big guy, Montez Sweat, has 1 sack after 4 games. Dio Dangbo, I think, only has 1 sack or he has 2 sacks. Like Grady Jarrett is injured with a knee injury. And with all due respect, like that's a troubling thing for a guy at his age, right? Like I know he might be my age, but like I'm not a football player. I'm just Joe Schmo over here. So it's concerning because it didn't look good on Sunday, and I don't really know what the quick fix is at this point.
No, what's it? 2 games with no sacks, 2 of your half your games with no sacks, and 5 total, maybe. Well, Austin Booker, not that he's going to be, Max Crosby as soon as he comes back, but I think isn't he eligible to come off the injured list? And should he
is
be
eligible? And he's
eligible?
been around. He's been around the locker room. I don't know whether that means he'll be ready to go week 6, but him and Travis Homer will be eligible to come off over the next week.
Well, if they can get him back, he's probably better than he might be your best your best pass rusher. I don't know. I mean, he certainly has flashed these last 2 preseasons, last year as a rookie and this year. Not that preseason means much, but he looked the game tape looks good on Austin Booker. Maybe he provides a spark. I think just if they can get Kyler Gordon back, I don't know if he'll be ready in 2 weeks, but if they can get back, not that he's an effective player. You put a good football player on the field, whether it's as a nickel, corner, safety, linebacker, inside guy, whatever, it's going to help your defense as a whole. So maybe he helps. But otherwise, the bottom line is, and it's a broken record here every week with you got to see more out of Montez Sweat. We saw it. We said it all last year. You and Sean, I'm sure, were saying all. You got to see more out of Montez. We got to see more out of him because you can't win. And that's what you didn't ask me, but I figured at some point we would say, whether it's this podcast or another one, are the Bears a playoff team? Are they showing signs? Could they be a playoff team? Because right now it's clearly no, not with the offensive and defensive lines being as bad as they have been. You cannot sustain this, and the schedule will get tougher. So there's still lots of room for improvement, but I'll say it one more time for the 100th time, probably this year already. It's all about the offense this year and Caleb and Ben Johnson. And at season's end, if we say, yes, they have it. They have the QB, they have the head coach, then things will improve. But then again, you still have Ryan Poles drafting people, and that's not good.
It's just, I think the troubling sign is I don't know what the fix is. I don't know what you do at this point. I mean, It's a lot to expect Austin Booker to come in and revitalize his pass rush. Like, obviously, he's had 2 good preseasons, but obviously that's the preseason. He needs to show that he can do it in the regular season. Like, it's obviously a much different game as we've seen. And yeah, I mean, it's just it'll be interesting to watch. What happens here with those lines, because I don't know what the fix is. You're not going to sign a guy. I doubt you trade for someone. Like, you're not going to give up draft capital for someone for. If this was a team that was like, oh, we're 1 player away from potentially making a Super Bowl run or something like that, sure, I can see that. But this is a team at this point through 4 games of the season. This is a team that's still developing. They seem to be playing 500 football at this point for me. Like, it seems looking at the schedule, like this seems like a 500 team up to this point. Like, they'll win some games they should win. They lose some games that they shouldn't lose. But I don't know what the quick fix is at this point. And so, Joe, give me one last loser.
Well, we've pretty much hit on him for the most part. I'll just say again, I'll say Ryan Poles. We've been talking about it in the podcast, but this is not a good look for him. not a good look for him. And if you want to develop guys slowly, and I know you can't help it if they're hurt, but you had opportunity. This is not second guessing. This is first guessing the running back situation. They didn't address it. Monungai gets a little more playing time the last 2 weeks. He's looked okay, but anything you get out of a 7th round pick, like if he retired from football today, I'd say, you know what, Kyle Monungai, good for you, man. You had some good plays in the NFL in your 4 games in the National Football League. You've accomplished more than most 7th rounders ever have. But if you're counting on that guy to be your complimentary back or a guy who's going to give you some juice or a spark at any point in the game, come on now, stop it. They haven't addressed the running back situation, not necessarily as someone to replace DeAndre Swift, but someone to complement him back there. That's bad. The offensive line, they thought I thought really DeAndre Swift would be better this year. The running will be better because of the improvements they made on the interior of the line with the 2 guards in the center. Haven't seen it yet. Who's that on? It's on the GM. That's not Ben Johnson. They're trying to figure it out in camp, like who can play where, and is this guy better than we thought he is? Maybe this guy's worse than we thought he is. Maybe this guy's in the wrong position. They're trying to figure it out, but they're playing with the cards they were dealt by the GM. So another bad look. Luther Burden, I want to see. Can we please see more of? I don't know. Is it the kid not grasping things? Is he not well liked? I don't know why we're not seeing more of him. Maybe because they can't protect the quarterback long enough. That's been better. I want to see more of this kid. 2 catches yesterday, I think, for -2 yards. This is a playmaker. Can we see more of him? Otherwise, why'd you pick him there in the 2nd round? I should be happy today, though, Michael. So I'm going to stay happy because the Bears have a win.
They do have a win, and they're 2-2 heading into the bye week. They're going to do a little bit of mini training camp, as Caleb Williams liked to call it, Joe. They're going to be practicing. Usually you don't practice on a bye week. They'll be practicing on Tuesday and Wednesday before taking Thursday through Sunday off. They'll have their week 5 bye. At the beginning of when we got the schedule, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know about a week 5 bye. You always want that to be a little bit later. You're dealing with some injuries, but quite honestly, I don't think this bye could have come at a better time for this team.
Right.
Both injury-wise, I mean, TJ Edwards is still out. Yeah. Grady Jarrett is obviously injured. Jalen Johnson is gone. Kyler Gordon was back limited. Maybe you can get him back here in a couple weeks here with that hamstring injury they've been nursing. That Colston Loveland, obviously, Darnell Wright. This is a pretty injured team at this point. And Caleb Williams talked about like they're going to treat this kind of like a mini training camp where you look at what worked for the first 4 weeks of the season, what didn't work. You can revamp some stuff. Maybe there's some competitions for some spots, but it very clearly sounds like this isn't going to be really a bye week. That's a bye week. It seems like this is just going to be like, all right, we're going to get some work in. We're going to figure some stuff out because, Joe, for being at 2-2, it hasn't been pretty. There's a lot of stuff that still needs to be worked out on. And, Rick brings an interesting point. The Commanders game, Bengals game, Ravens game look a little bit better now than it did at the start of the year. We can get on a roll. I agree that they look better. I don't know. Listen, those are still really good teams. Like Jaden Daniels could potentially be back here in a couple weeks. We don't know his status. Obviously, Joe Burrow won't be there. We don't know what Lamar Jackson's looking like injury-wise, but those are still really good teams regardless. And you still need to listen. The Bears are 2-2, but they still need to they're lucky to be 2-2. They got blown out in the 2nd week. They lost a game that they shouldn't have lost in the 1st week, and they beat a bad Dallas team who somehow tied with the Packers yesterday 40-40, which riddle the NFL. But Joe, it's an interesting bye week for this team where I think there's going to be a lot of work done this week, and I think there's going to be a lot of competition, and I think there's going to be I don't want to say there's going to be a lot of turnover per se, but I do think when we talk next and preview that Commanders game, I think things might be a little bit different.
Yeah, and let's be clear too. 32 out of 32 teams in the National Football League have issues. And there's no perfect. Even the Eagles 4-0, and AJ Brown is tweeting cryptic things about you're not happy. Jalen Hurts didn't throw for a single passing yard in the 2nd half yesterday, and they're 4-0. So every team has warts. But when you see your team play every week, you see the warts more maybe than everybody else. So, but go figure out the Packers, right? 2-0 start. They look like they're going to the Super Bowl, and now their defense looks worse than the Bears at times. Although I still think the Micah Parsons deal was a great move for them. But
well, yeah, no one's doubting that.
No, right? So everyone has issues still. And the Packers gave up 40 yesterday. But the Bears need the bye week for the health factor alone. That's it. And we talked about this back in the preseason about that bye week coming up. It's early. And it really, I thought even then, it depends on what kind of physical shape your football team is, not so much mentally with learning a new system. But so this will be good because they could just keep learning and refresh, especially with the first-year head coach. As much as Ben Johnson has looked like the real deal here, this is his first-year head coach too, so I'm sure he's learning as well. And certainly he wasn't great like no one was great in week 2 against the Lions. So learn more, but get the guys, because they got some really key guys out here. Jalen's not coming back anytime soon, but Gordon would be a big plus. Booker would be, again, I'm not expecting him to be Max Crosby, but I think he would help. We need Colston.
You're buying that Austin Booker, that stock. You're on top of that stock.
To me, he's got a heartbeat, which I don't see enough guys on the defensive front showing that they have a heartbeat. Because at least maybe he does something. Maybe Dennis Allen, and he'd be probably a package guy anyway. He's not going to go and play all 3 downs, but something at least, because I don't see. They got to get those guys back, and they got to get Colston Loveland back, and they got to get him involved in this game. And they got to just spend the next 2 weeks figuring out your O line and your D line.
Yeah, there's going to be, Ben Johnson has never steered away from competition, and I can't imagine what those 2 practices are going to be like this week and what the next week and a half are going to be, because there's plenty of competition available on this roster for a 2-2 team at this point. But all right, we're going to get out of here. That is everything that we've got for this week's episode of the podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, guys, on the live stream. Appreciate all your comments, all your questions. If you give us a like, if you like what you heard, that really helps us grow the brand and helps us get to more Bears fans who want to listen and talk about the Bears wins and losses. If you're joining us on the podcast, make sure you, if you want to be part of the conversation, make sure you check out our social medias. I'm at Dwojak94. Joe's at Joe Aguilar 64. We'll always post when we're going to be doing a live stream. It's always usually Monday and Friday morning. The week 6 might be a little bit different, obviously, with the Monday night game, but we'll keep you guys posted about what we're going to do. But make sure you are keeping up with our Bears coverage. It's the bye week, but we'll have Bears coverage throughout the week. Joe and I are going to give you a little progress report or little grades about what we think the Bears are at 4 games into the season. Toward the end of the year, we'll have obviously Bear Down, Nerd Up, some features and that sort of stuff. So make sure you're checking out all our work there. Make sure you're following Joe at Joe Aguilar 64 for all his Northwest Herald coverage as well. So thanks so much, guys. We will be off on Friday and likely off on Monday. We'll be back next Friday to preview week 6 against the Commanders. So enjoy your little bye here, and we will talk to you folks down the road.